What I value most in humanity is our capacity to actually be kind to each other and to change. In terms of how that motivates me to do what I do now, I always work on the basis that even in the face of extreme adversity, there can always be a shift and there can always be a change. Hi, my name's Heather Johnston and I first came into contact with Veritas House in 1987.
My name is Robert McAllery. I was a youth worker at Veritas House, and within a few years became the executive officer or coordinator, we called it back then, and I was there for about 20 years. Veritas House, I believe, was relatively unique, well, at least for this area, because we were the only youth accommodation option available, and the options were few and far between.
Veritas House is a very special place for many different people for many different reasons, but it's fun, it's local, it has heart, we are passionate, we understand children and young people, and we respect their resilience and their bravery for getting through really tough times and getting back on their feet. And I think the biggest thing is we believe in them. We know they can. My name is Jodie Pearce and I'm the current CEO and Principal Officer of Veritas.
Veritas House was established in 1981. My understanding is the name Veritas House came from a building which was used initially to accommodate the young people of Bathurst, which was a complex of buildings up near Mount Panorama. I believe those buildings were probably owned by the Catholic Church at one stage, and the names of the buildings had different Latin names on them. And one of those buildings was Veritas House, and so Veritas House came from that. The members of the Bathurst community perceived a need for accommodation for homeless youth.
I was lucky enough to join Veritas 12 years ago, just over 12 years ago. I jumped at the chance to work for Veritas. It was an iconic service in the community. The social issues that I saw then and I see now are very similar, and that's really unfortunate.
That came from a wider movement across the country, I believe, for similar refuges to be established, but it was very much a grassroots movement from local communities, and it followed a similar movement for women's refuges to be established as well, and that was done mainly by women's groups and within local communities.
I think the lack of affordable housing for young people and the inability, even if young people are working, to be able to afford shelter was striking then, and it's even more scary now.
When I first joined Veritas House in 1987, I was a youth worker at the Crisis Youth Refuge. My job was to provide support to the homeless youth that were staying at the refuge at that time. There's been a myriad of changes between 1987 and now, and there would have been a staff of about a dozen. And now in 2022, there's a staff of 120 across Bathurst, Orange, and a footprint in Dubbo as well.
So we would have a range of children or young people coming to us from about 13 years through to 17, 18 years old. Some came straight off the street from homes. Some came from the Department of Community Services, or DOCS as it was known back then, because they had been through multiple breakdowns in their foster placements.
A young person comes into Veritas, they can receive accommodation, mental health support, they can receive counselling, the myriad of services that they may need without having to go to 3 different services to get that.
A whole heap more programs that are in place now. So it's not just providing care or providing refuge to homeless youth.
Some of them come in crisis and their world has been torn apart, and that's a hard bit of the job to see that. But one of the privileges is to see children and young people move through that crisis and get reconnected with their family, with their school, find housing, all those kinds of things. To see that progression is amazing.
Most of probably the young people had a lack of trust in adults and good reasons to have a lack of trust in adults due to their own histories of neglect or abuse. Quite a few had significant anger issues, substance abuse issues, mental health issues, some with disabilities.
Veritas House is an organisation that continues to provide opportunities and experiences for a whole range of people, but particularly young people who come from adverse environments and who are often disadvantaged in the community.
I guess the most important thing to note is that we are supporting over 800 children and young people, families and foster carers each year, which is a huge impact and something that we're all proud of.